Hare Krishna. So, a very warm welcome to all of you for today's session on the Bhagavad Gita. We'll start our session with the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we discussed in our previous session, Lord Krishna is telling Arjun about a person with divine knowledge, because the previous chapter, the fourth chapter, was divine knowledge, and now in this chapter Lord Krishna is telling Arjun that a person in divine knowledge, a self-realized person, even though he may be working and he may be doing all kinds of activities, but because he knows that I am not this body, I am a spirit soul and I am a part and parcel of Krishna, he does not identify himself with the body, and he knows that everything is acted upon by the forces of nature. Now, today we'll be delving into the details about how this happens, and that forms the basis of our understanding of how we are aloof from this material body. So, the details about this we'll be covering today. So, we'll begin our discussion today with text 10, shloka number 10 of the fifth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. ब्रह्मण्याधाय कर्माणि संगम त्यक्त्वा करोति यः लिप्यते न स पापेन पद्मपत्रमिवाम्भसा। ब्रह्मण्याधाय कर्माणि संगम त्यक्त्वा करोति यः लिप्यते न स पापेन पद्मपत्रमिवाम्भसा। Translation: one who performs all his actions without attachment, surrendering them unto me, is never affected by sinful reactions. Just as a lotus leaf is not touched by water. Now you see, very beautiful example. Lord Krishna is explaining this with a very beautiful example of how a lotus leaf, although in water, is untouched by water. Generally, if we observe a lotus flower or a lotus leaf, you may find lotus leaf at clean places also, in ponds, in lakes, and sometimes we find them at marshy places or dirty places also sometimes. But although this lotus flower is surrounded by sometimes, not always, but sometimes with dirty water also, but this dirt does not affect the beauty of the lotus flower. In fact, the lotus flower looks all the more beautiful. Although surrounded by dirt, surrounded by muddy, marshy water, but still lotus flower looks so beautiful. So that is what Lord Krishna is telling here in this shloka, that Brahmanadhaya karmani, Brahmanyadhaya. Brahmanyadhaya means Brahmani adhaya. So Brahma means, as we know, we have discussed many times, that Brahma means Krishna. So Brahmani adhaya, adhaya means to surrender unto Krishna. So Brahmani adhaya. Brahmani adhaya means a person who has completely surrendered himself unto the Supreme Lord. Because we have discussed many times, Brahma Jyoti means the effulgence which comes out of the body of the Lord. And that is why Brahma Jyoti, the source of Brahma Jyoti is Krishna. And that is why Krishna is called as Param Brahma. And generally in Vedic scriptures, we find that Param Brahma is also written as Brahma. So that is why Brahmanyadhaya means a person who has surrendered completely unto Krishna. So Brahmanyadhaya Karmani. Karmani means to surrender all our activities, to basically give up all our activities and surrender it for the pleasure of the Lord. And Sangam Tyaktva Karoti Yaha. Sangam Tyaktva means to give up all material attachment. Sangam means material attachment. Karoti Yaha. Yaha means a person who does this. Karoti means a person who does this. What happens to him? Lipyate na sa papena. Papena means, pap means sinful activities or sinful reactions. Lipyate means to be bound by or to be affected by. So lipyate na sa papena. So such a person is not affected by, he is not bound by papena. Papena means sinful reactions. And the example, and then Krishna moves on to the example. Very beautiful example, that Padma Patra Mivambhasa. Padma means lotus, Patra means leaves, leaves of the lotus. Iva Ambhasa, Ambhasa means water. So just like a lotus flower placed in water is not affected or is not touched by water, similarly, a person who has surrendered all his actions unto Krishna, giving up all other attachments, is not touched by or affected by sinful reactions. You see how beautiful this example is, because Lord Krishna is comparing a pure devotee to lotus flower. So pure devotees are just like lotus flower. And the example also Lord Krishna is giving, that what are the characteristics of pure devotees, that also he is saying. You see, Brahmanyadhaya, that means he is completely surrendered unto me. Karmani, he surrenders all his work unto me. Sangam Tyaktva, he gives up all material attachments. And these are the qualities, and because of this, Lipyate na sa papena, he is not affected by sinful reactions, just like a lotus is not touched by water. So basically, he's comparing, Lord Krishna is comparing a pure devotee to lotus flower. So how can we become just like lotus? How can we become just like lotus? That although we may be surrounded by, because this material world is like that. The three modes, they are like dirt, they are like mud, or you can say they bind us. So the three modes, Sattva Gun, Rajo Gun, Tamo Gun, these three modes, this material world as we know is made up of these three modes. And the spirit soul, he is always under the influence of these three modes. So these three modes are like this muddy water or marshy water, or you can say dirt. And we have to become like a lotus flower. That means we should not be affected by these three modes. That's what Lord Krishna is saying here, that we should aspire to become like that. Although, just like lotus flower, although maybe surrounded by muddy water or marshy water or dirty water, but still lotus is never affected by that, and lotus looks beautiful. Similarly, although we may be surrounded by the three modes, but we should not get affected by that. So what is the process? That also Lord Krishna is telling here in this shloka. Brahmanyadhaya, karmani, all our work we surrender unto Krishna. So how to surrender our work to Krishna? Sangam Tyaktva means to give up material attachment. So we give up material attachment because of superior attachment. Because many times we have discussed that spirit soul can never be inactive. Activity is the constitution of the spirit soul. Activity is the constitution of the spirit soul. Activity, consciousness, desires, these are all symptoms of the spirit soul. Okay. So we cannot make spirit soul inactive, unconscious, or desireless. It's impossible. A stone is desireless, a stone is inactive, a stone is unconscious, a dead body is desireless, unconscious, but a living body, till the soul is in the body is active 24 hours. Till the soul is in the body is active 24 hours. Heart is pumping, blood vessels are moving, everything is going on 24 hours. So this means that spirit soul can never be inactive. And similarly, spirit soul can never be desireless. So we cannot become desireless, as many people think that we can become desireless. That is nonsense. We can never become desireless. It's impossible. We can only purify our desires. Purification is the right word. Desirelessness is not possible. We can just purify our desires. So, karmani, sangam tyaktva means to develop. How can we develop detachment from matter? Sangam tyaktva means to give up material attachment. So, how a person gives up material attachment? Because he develops superior attachment. Because we develop attachment to Krishna, automatically this material attachment will go away. That is the process. So before that, Lord Krishna is telling that Brahmanyadhaya karmani. The second process, the second method mentioned is Sangam Tyaktva, to give up material attachment because of superior attachment to Krishna. But the first process is Brahmanyadhaya karmani, to surrender all our works, whatever we are doing, all our activities, we surrender to Krishna. So how to do that? So of course, we cannot give our activities to Krishna. There are two kinds of surrendering our activities to Krishna. Two kinds of people do that. The first class are the people who only work for Krishna. They only work for the mission of Krishna. Those who are missionaries of Krishna, or those who have dedicated their life for just serving Krishna, no one else. So they only will do Krishna's work. That is the first process. But those who are not able to do that, because not everyone can do that. Those who are householders, or those who are not able to live in ashram, or those who are not able to become missionaries of Krishna, how will they surrender their actions to Krishna? So for them, the process is to offer the results of their work to Krishna. In this way, they surrender their work to Krishna. I'll give you an example. Generally, we see people, if a person is an employee somewhere, he is earning some salary, or if he is doing some business, so he wants some profit in the business, or if a farmer is farming crops. So any action a person may do, for example, he's working in some company, or he's doing some business, or he's farming. In all these processes, there is a purpose, there is a result which a person wants from this activity. Suppose a person is working in a company, so why he is working? For salary. If a person is doing business, why is he doing business? For profit. If a farmer is farming crops, why is he doing that? For receiving the fruit at the end, isn't it? So the process of how to surrender our work to Krishna is, say a businessman or a salaried person, Say he works for 100 hours in a month and then he gets $100 as salary. That means for every hour of work, he gets $1 as salary. So that means whatever number of hours of work he has performed, that has got converted into salary, which is the fruit of his work, isn't it? 100 hours means $100. So that means every hour is getting converted into $1. Now, when he offers this to Krishna, suppose he offers $100 to Krishna. So what happens? His 100 hours of work that he has done becomes devotional service. Why? Because A is equal to B, B is equal to C. That means A is equal to C. A is equal to A means number of hours, B means salary, and C means offering to Krishna. So if a person works for 100 hours and he gets 100 rupees and he offers 100 rupees to Krishna, so what happens? A becomes C, that means A becomes devotional service. His whole 100 hours of work that he has done, it has become devotional service. So this is how we connect our work to Krishna, by offering the results of our work to Krishna. For example, a farmer, he may grow a mango tree. He will work very hard to grow up this mango tree. And when the fruits come, if he offers all the fruits to Krishna, and whatever he requires for his maintenance, he takes. Rest everything he offers to Krishna, then all his hard work of growing this mango tree becomes devotional service. So this is the process which Lord Krishna is talking about here. Brahmanyadhaya karmani. So by offering the results of our work to Krishna, giving up all material attachment because of superior attachment to Krishna, lipyatena sapapena. Such a person does not get entangled in sinful reactions because he is only attached to Krishna and he is offering all the results to Krishna. So there is no question of attachment. Because when we are attached to results of our work, we become the cause of, we become the enjoyer or sufferer of the reaction of the work. For example, just I was giving example of a farmer. So the farmer, he grows a mango tree. Now to grow a mango tree, he may have to do many activities. He will have to pour water, he will have to serve the tree, he will have to, and sometimes there will be some weeds growing alongside the mango tree. So he has to pluck out the weeds. So basically that's killing, isn't it? So much of killing is happening just to grow the mango tree. Now the result is the mango fruit, tasty fruit. Now that fruit has grown, but after so much of work, killing also. So if suppose he eats the fruit himself, what will happen? The person who eats that fruit, he will also become the sufferer or enjoyer of the reaction, of the sinful reaction which has undergone in growing the tree, isn't it? So that is why the offering or the fruit is offered to Krishna. So then what happens? That sinful reaction is taken away by the Lord, and then we get sinless prasadam. Prasadam means mercy of the Lord. So that is why everything is offered to the Lord, and we take whatever minimum is required for us. Everything else we offer to the Lord, so that all the sinful reactions is taken away by Him. This is how we protect ourselves from sinful reactions, and that is the process which is mentioned here by Lord Krishna. So when we are not attached to the fruits of our work, when we are not attached to the material possessions that we have, although it looks as if these material possessions are our possession, but no. Just like a cashier, I have given so many times this example. A cashier may be possessing millions of dollars in his possession, but he knows that not a penny belongs to me. So similarly, a pure devotee also knows that not even a penny belongs to me. Everything belongs to Krishna, and everything should be offered for his pleasure. So that is what Lord Krishna is saying here in this shloka. Now text 11, shloka number 11. कायेन मनसा बुद्ध्या केवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति संगम त्यक्त्वात्मशुद्धये. कायेन मनसा बुद्ध्या केवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति संगम त्यक्त्वात्मशुद्धये. Translation: My devotees give up all attachment and perform all their actions with the body, mind, and intelligence and the senses solely for the purpose of spiritual purification. Very important shloka. So, what is Lord Krishna saying here? That kayena manasa buddhya. Kayena means, kaya means body. Manasa means mind. Buddhya means intelligence. Kevalar indriyarapi. Indri means senses. And Kevalar means only. So Lord Krishna is saying here that body, mind, intelligence and the senses are only used by whom? Yoginaha. Yoginaha. Now what is the meaning of Yoginaha? So Yoginaha means yogi. The word yoga, as we have discussed many times, yoga means union with Krishna. Vyog means separation from Krishna. Yoga means union with Krishna. So yogi means a person who is united with Krishna. Bhakti also means union with Krishna. So basically bhakti and yoga both are same. And the culmination of all yoga processes is bhakti yoga. So basically yogina means a pure devotee of Krishna. Because in the previous shloka, that's what Lord Krishna is saying. So that's what Lord Krishna is saying here, that yogina, so a person who is a devotee of the Lord, whose work is in union with Krishna, yogina karma kurvanti, he will perform his activities, but kayena manasa buddhya, indriyairapi, but he will use his in senses, body, mind and intelligence, sangam tyaktva, he will perform his activities, but sangam tyaktva. Sangam is material attachment. Tyaktva means to give up. So he will give up all material attachment. He will perform his activities and he will use his senses, body, mind and intelligence for what purpose? You see the last word. Atma Shuddhaye. Atma Shuddhaye. Shuddha means pure. Atma means spirit soul. So a yogi or a devotee of the Lord, he uses his senses, mind, intelligence and the body, and he will perform his work without attachment. But for what purpose? Atma Shuddhaye, for spiritual purification. He will work only for purifying himself. You see, very important shloka. He will work only for the purpose of, that's what the word is used here, Kevalar. Kevalar means only. He will use everything. He will use his body, his mind, his senses, his intelligence. He will work without attachment, but for what? For the purpose of spiritual purification. So a devotee is always working for purifying himself. Because we discussed in the previous shloka, you cannot become desireless. You cannot become unconscious. You cannot become inactive. Because spirit soul cannot become desireless, cannot become unconscious, cannot become inactive. So spirit soul has to be purified. When spirit soul enters into this material world, he becomes contaminated because of the influence of the three modes. So the whole purpose of human life is to purify the spirit soul of all these impurities. Although spirit soul is intrinsically pure, because spirit soul is part and parcel of Krishna. So spirit soul is intrinsically pure. But under the influence of the three modes, spirit soul develops impurity, gets surrounded by impurities. And the whole purpose of human life is to purify the spirit soul from these impurities. So that is the goal of a devotee. So those who are working for purification, they are called sadhak. Sadhak means those who are performing sadhana. Sadhana is the process which we adopt for purification. And what is sadhana? Sadhana is Shravanam and Kirtanam. Shravanam means to hear from spiritual master, and Kirtanam means to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day, 16 rounds. So these two processes, if a person is performing regularly, that is called sadhana. And a person who is performing sadhana, he is called a sadhak. So a sadhak, he performs sadhana so that he becomes purified gradually. So a sadhak means that he is working, he is endeavoring to become purified gradually. And once he becomes purified by the process of sadhana, he is called as sadhu. So beginning process is he is called a sadhak, and when he becomes purified, he becomes a sadhu or a pure devotee or a shuddha bhakt, we call him. So those who are still impure, they work for the process of purification, they endeavor to become pure. Those who are already purified, they work for welfare of the general public. And what is the welfare of general public? To give them Krishna, to glorify Krishna, to basically spread the message of Krishna to everyone, to make people devotees of Krishna. That is the highest welfare work. To make people devotees of Krishna is the highest charity, is the highest welfare work. So those who are already purified, they work for purification of others. But one who is still not purified, he works for his purification first. So that is what Lord Krishna is saying here, that a devotee is always working for his purification. He will use everything. He will use his body, mind, intelligence, senses. He will perform his activities without attachment, but for the purpose of spiritual purification. And once he is purified, then he starts working for purifying others. Because only a pure person can purify others. A person who is impure, first he has to purify himself. You practice what you preach. So if a person is himself impure, how will you purify others? So first we purify ourselves and then we try to purify others. This is the process of bhakti. Now text 12, shloka number 12. Yuktah karma phalam tyaktva shantimápnoti naishthiki ayuktah काम कारेण phale sakto nibadhyate. युक्तः कर्म फलं त्यक्त्वा शान्तिमाप्नोति नैष्ठिकीम् अयुक्तः काम कारेण फले सक्तो निबध्यते. Translation: one who is engaged in devotional service by dedicating the results of his activities to me attains real peace. However, a person who performs all his activities with attachment and a desire for sense gratification without engaging in union with me becomes entangled. Now you see. So what is Lord Krishna saying here? So he is saying, Yuktah karma phalam tyaktva. Karma phalam tyaktva. We have discussed this in the previous shlokas also. Karma phalam tyaktva means to give up the fruits of our work to Krishna. So karma phalam tyaktva means to give up attachment to the fruits of our work. Because if we are attached to the fruits of our work, then we become enjoyers or sufferers of the reaction that comes with it. Because every action has a reaction. So if we become attached to the fruits of our work, then we become the enjoyer or sufferer of the reaction of the work. So karma phalam tyaktva means to give up attachment to the fruits of our work and to offer the fruits to Krishna. So in this way, we purify our work. So yuktah means, you see the first word which is used here in this shloka is yuktah. Yuktah means to be engaged. So a person who is engaged in karma phalam tyaktva, in giving up the attachment to the results of his work by offering it to Krishna, shanti apnoti naishtiki. Such a person attains shanti. Shanti means peace. Apnoti means to attain. Naishtiki means pure or lasting. So such a person attains lasting peace. Such a person attains real peace. So yukta, you see the first word used in this shloka is yukta. Yukta means to be engaged in Krishna's service. Now ayukta means who is not engaged in Krishna's service. Yukta means to be engaged. Ayukta means to be not engaged. So ayukta, so Lord Krishna is saying that a person who is engaged in my devotional service, he will attain shanti, he will attain peace. But a person who is not engaged in my service, kam karena, because of material desires, because of lusty desires, kam karena means lusty desires, and phale sakto, because of attachment to the fruits of his work, nibadhyate, such a person becomes entangled. Such a person becomes entangled. So Krishna is giving both the examples in this shloka. A person who is engaged in Krishna's service, he attains shanti, he attains peace. A person who is not engaged in Krishna's service, he will not attain peace, but he will also become bound. He will become entangled in this material world. The whole purpose of human life is to become disentangled, to become disentangled from this material world. Until unless we become disentangled from this material world, we cannot go back to the spiritual world. So, phale sakto, the word is used here is, in the previous sentence you see, Lord Krishna is saying, karma phalam tyaktva, to give up the fruits of action. And here he is saying, phale sakto, a person who is attached to the fruits of his action. Exactly the opposite. So that is why I give example of a cashier in a bank. It's the best example. That cashier is having so much of material sense gratificatory object. So many dollars is lying with him always. But he knows that not even a single penny belongs to me. And just imagine, I sometimes wonder that whole life people spend for attaining those things which will not go with them. You see, whole life a person spends for doing what? To earn money, to create wealth, for constructing big houses, purchasing houses, bungalows, cars. You see all these things. A person works whole life for all these things. But just imagine, not anything he will not be able to take with him. Nothing will go with him. And whole life people work for acquiring those things which will not go with them ultimately. Such a big illusion of life. Such a big illusion. Just imagine that whole life people work tirelessly. Whole human life they waste for such things which will not go with them. And unfortunately, people don't have time for themselves. They don't spend time for performing those activities which will go with them. Just like service to Krishna, Shravanam, Kirtanam, these are the activities which are going to go with us. But people don't have time for these activities. Why? Because they are engaged in those activities which are useless. You see? So, how strange it is. How strange it is. Because there is no education. Nobody gives this education to people. This whole material education, what we see in schools and colleges and universities nowadays, these are all slaughterhouses of education. There is no education about human life. They educate about human body, but they do not educate about spirit soul, because of which human body functions. They have no knowledge of spirit soul, and no one is educating people. It's so unfortunate, you see. And that is why there is no systematic training that what is the purpose of human life. These schools and colleges, they are simply creating robots, slaves. Slaves of what? Slaves of money, slaves of the senses. That's all. Everyone who enters into these schools and colleges, what is the goal? To earn money. That's all. No education to become a pure devotee of Krishna. No education of Krishna. No education of the spirit soul. You see how strange it is and how unfortunate it is. But that's what is happening nowadays. And Lord Krishna, that's why he's saying here that ayukta, so a person who is not engaged in Krishna's service, he will get entangled. And people are getting entangled in this material creation. Whole life they are working for those things which actually are of no use. Because a person may purchase 100 bungalows, 100 mansions, but will he be able to take those mansions with him? No. In fact, if he is very much attached to these mansions, and if his activities are sinful, in the next life he may become a rat in those mansions. It's a true story. It so happened once that a person was very much attached to his home that he constructed. And so he constructed a huge mansion for himself, and he was very attached to that mansion. Every day he would clean that mansion. He would, even a little some defect he would see in that mansion, he would go and immediately repair that mansion. So he was very much attached to this huge bungalow which he had constructed. But his activities were not pure. He performed a lot of sinful activities also to construct this mansion. So when he died, because of his attachment to the mansion, next life he was born in the same mansion, but as a rat. You see? So this is what happens. People don't realize. And this person, he was born as a rat in that mansion, and his own sons, he had three sons. So these three sons, they killed that rat because this rat is disturbing us a lot. You see? So what is the use of all these activities? It's all futile, useless. So that's what Lord Krishna is saying here. Now text 13, shloka number 13. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadvare pure dehi naiva kurvanna karayan. Translation: A person who renounces all his activities by the mind and remains self-controlled resides happily in the city of nine gates, the body. Such an embodied soul neither performs any action, nor is he the cause of any action. Now you see, very important shloka. So what is Lord Krishna saying here? That sarva karmani manasa, sarva karmani manasa, sarva karmani means all the activities. Manasa means the mind. Sanyasya, sanyasa means to renounce or to give up. Sukham vashi, sukham means happy, and vashi means to live, or to live a controlled life, or to live in a controlled manner. Okay. So sarva karmani manasa. So a person who has, by the power of the mind, he has renounced all his activities and the results of his activities. Sukham vashi, he lives happily. So where does he live happily? You see, Navadware pure dehi, Navadware pur. So Lord Krishna is saying that this body is Navadware pur. Just like we say Kanpur, Nagpur. When we go to the temple of Lord Jagannath, that place is called Jagannath Puri. So Puri means place where Lord Jagannath is living, that is called Jagannath Puri. So Navadwarpur means a place which has nine, Dwar means gates, Nav means nine, so nine gates. So Lord Krishna is saying that this body is a city of nine gates. So basically this body has nine outages, nine gates. Which are those? Two eyes, two nostrils, two ears, one mouth, one rectum, and one genital. So these are the nine gates in the body, nine holes in the body. So that is why Lord Krishna is saying that this body is Navadwarapur. This body is a city of nine gates. Naiva kurvanna karayan. Dehi means the spirit soul. Deh means body, and Dehi means a person who lives in the body. So that is the spirit soul. So Navadware pure Dehi. So the spirit soul who lives in this city of nine gates, Sukham Vashi, he lives happily. Naiva kurvanna karyan. And the spirit soul neither performs any activities, nor he is the cause of any activity. Now, how do we understand this? That the spirit soul neither creates activity, that means he is not the cause of activities, nor is he actually doing anything. So how to understand this? If you remember, I have given you an example of a person in a dream. So a person who is dreaming in the night or whenever he is sleeping. So when we are dreaming, we identify ourselves with the character in the dream, isn't it? Now, when we identify ourselves with the character in the dream, what happens? Because we are identifying ourselves, that means we are thinking that I am that person. That is the meaning of identification, that we start identifying with that character. So when that character suffers, when that character undergoes some punishment or misery, we also start suffering. Although there is no connection, but still we suffer because we have identified ourselves with the character in the dream, isn't it? And then when we hear the sound From a person who has awakened, we also become awake. When we hear the sound of an awakened person, awakened means a person who is not sleeping, a person who is not dreaming. When we hear his sound, then we get up, then we come out of the dream. And that is called awakening. So this material world is also like that. Only a person who is not dreaming, only a person who has developed spiritual realization, who is awake spiritually, only he can make us spiritually awake. Only by hearing a pure devotee, we also can become spiritually purified. We also can become spiritually awakened. Right? So basically, when a person wakes up, then he realizes, actually, I was doing nothing. It was a dream. Because I was identifying myself with that character, that's why that character's pain became my pain. I was suffering because I was identifying with that character. But now that I have awakened, now that I'm spiritually awake, now I'm not identifying with that character. And now there is no pain. Actually, I was doing nothing. I am aloof from all these things. That is what Lord Krishna is saying here. That sarva karmani manasa, a person who gives up all his activities, sannyas saste, who has given up all his attachment, sukham vashi, he lives happily in this body. And even though he is neva kurvan na karyan, neither he is doing anything nor he is the cause of any action. Why? Because he does not identify himself with the body. He knows that I am not this body. I am a spirit soul and I am a part and parcel of Krishna. My original identity is that I am a devotee of Krishna. I am a part and parcel of Krishna. That is my original identity. Right? So that is what Lord Krishna is saying here. Now, how does it happen? Let us see. Text 14, shloka number 14. न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफल संयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफल संयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते. Translation: the spirit soul, who is the master of the body, is neither the performer nor the creator of activities, nor is he associated with the results of the activities of people in general. All of this is performed by the three modes of material nature. So, this is the extension of the previous shloka. In the previous shloka, Lord Krishna said that spirit soul living in this body of 9 gates lives happily because he is not doing anything nor is he creating any activity. Now this shloka is extension of that shloka. You see. So Lord Krishna is saying here that na kartritvam na karmani. So spirit soul is neither the performer of the work, kartritvam means performer, and na karmani, neither he is performing, neither he is acting, right? Neither he is the performer nor is he attached to his activities. Lokasya srijati prabhu. Lokasya means the people in general. Srijati means creator. Neither he creates these activities. Okay. Na karma phala sanyogam. Neither is he attached to his karma phal or the fruits of his work. Swabhavastu pravartate. Swabhava means nature, this material nature. So everything is happening because of this material nature, because of the three modes. So if you remember, we discussed about the three modes in the third chapter also, that this material world is made up of these three modes. This whole material creation is created by the Lord, and the three modes are always acting in this material creation on every living entity. There is nothing, and which are these three modes? Sattvagun, which is called mode of goodness, Rajogun, which is called mode of passion, and Tamogun, which is called mode of ignorance. Now, there is nothing called as pure goodness or pure passion or pure ignorance. No. Someone may have more goodness, someone may have more passion, and someone may have more ignorance. But basically, there is nothing called as pure goodness or pure passion or pure ignorance. No. Every living entity, he is a mixture of these three modes. His nature is a mixture of these three modes. Okay. Now, human life is the only exception. Human life is the only exception that in human life we can actually transcend these three modes. Human life is the only life in which we can do that. And that is why this material world is compared to an ocean. Now, suppose if we are living on land, then we have two options. If we are living on land, we have two options, because on earth, we have only two options where we can live, where we can choose to live, either on land or on water, because no one can live in air, isn't it? Human beings cannot live in air. So if we have to live, we can choose two places to live, either on land or in water. Now, till we are on land, we have two options, that we can live on land also, we can live in water also. But the moment we choose water, after that we are left with no other option. I'll give you an example. It's a real instance. I think I have told this story earlier also. So there was a huge ship which was traveling from Europe to America, huge ship like Titanic. And suddenly in the middle of the night, this ship met an accident and started to capsize, started to sink. So the captain of the ship, he started running around and telling people to vacate the ship. So generally in huge ships, there are smaller boats which are placed, which generally people can use to save their lives if ship starts to sink. So people started taking those lifeboats and they started saving themselves. They started running away from the ship. So when the captain running, he reached the top of the ship, the dock, he saw that a person, basically a traveler of the ship, he was dancing and singing songs. So this captain became very angry on him. He said to this person, "Can't you see the ship is sinking? Save your life, save yourself." So this traveler, he said that, "Do you know who am I?" So the captain said, "Well, this is not the time for introduction. We'll do this later. First, you save yourself." So he said, "I am the gold medalist in Olympics. You just tell me how far is land from here." So the captain said, "Well, land is 3 miles from here, 5 kilometers." So this person said, "Oh, just 5 kilometers. I can cross it within few minutes. I am the fastest swimmer in the world. I am Olympics gold medalist in swimming." And he jumped into the ocean from the ship and he started to swim. But after some time, he came back towards the ship. He looked up at the captain and asked, which direction? Which direction? You said land is 3 miles from here, but in which direction? The captain said, below you. Just imagine that ocean was 3 miles deep. So, what does it mean? That however expert a swimmer may be, no one can cross the ocean by flapping his own hands and legs. It's impossible. No one can cross an ocean. It's beyond human capacity to cross an ocean. Once we fall into an ocean, we have to surrender to the ocean. Then ocean will decide which direction we have to go. We'll be tossed by the waves of the ocean, sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes up, sometimes down. So the waves of the ocean represent the 3 modes. Once we are in ocean, then we have no choice. We have no choice. Till we are on land, we have choice. But once we are in ocean, we have no choice. Then the waves of the ocean will act and will be tossed by the waves of ocean, up, down, right? So the waves of the ocean represent the 3 modes. Sometimes we go up, another wave comes and we go down, another wave comes and we go up. These are the 3 modes. Sometimes we are under the influence of Sattva Guna, then we do good deeds, then we get higher life forms. Then once that pious credit goes away, then again we become human beings. And if we come under good influence, then again we go up. Otherwise, if we come under bad influence, that means if we come under the mode of passion or ignorance, we go down. Again, when the sinful activities get over, sinful reactions get over, again we become human beings. Again, if we come under the influence of goodness, we'll go up. Otherwise, if we come under the influence of ignorance or passion, we go down. This keeps happening perpetually, eternally. We keep going up, down, up, down, up, down. That's all. So once we are in ocean, no one can save us. There is only one hope. There's only one hope. If a boat can come and if we sit on that boat can save us. Otherwise, we cannot save ourselves. By our own strength, we cannot cross the ocean. So what is that boat? What is that boat? That boat is lotus feet of Krishna. In the Bhagavatam, it is said, Samashrita ye pad pallav plavam mahat padam punya yasho murare bhava budhir vats padam param padam 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 yad vipadam natesha. So the lotus feet of Krishna is compared to the boat in this ocean. This material world is like an ocean, and the 3 modes are like the waves of the ocean, and we have fallen into this material world. Only Krishna's lotus feet. If we catch hold of Krishna's lotus feet, only then we can be saved. And the captain of the ship is the spiritual master. He will guide us. He will tell us. He will save us by taking us to Krishna. But Krishna's lotus feet are the only way. They are the only boat clinging on to which we'll be able to cross the ocean. So that is what Lord Krishna is saying here. That the spirit soul, he neither performs any activity, neither he creates activities, because everything is performed by the 3 modes. We had choice when we were with Krishna in the spiritual world. We had a choice not to come in this material world. But once we enter this material world, we have no choice. Only human life is an exception where we get a facility to escape. And if we miss this human life, then no one can help us. So that is what Lord Krishna is saying here. So now in the next session, we'll be covering some more aspects about this yoga process. We'll stop here. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming for today's session. Hare Krishna.